lovelies. I thought it might be kind of fun to give you guys a tour of my bookshelf, my nonfiction bookshelf, to see kind of books I have. But first, this is exciting. Oh, look at this little dead cat. It's so cute. I finally decided to get a camera. It has a lens. Wow, okay, I just left it on the auto settings because I don't know what I'm doing. I also don't know how the sound is going to be on this. I'm going to try and figure out actually how to connect my normal microphone to it. We'll see how that goes. Yeah, so that didn't work, obviously. I think the headphone jack was like maybe not fully seated in the slot. I really hope that's the case because if this fucking camera's broken right when I bought it, that would suck, but oh well. So yeah, here's my shelf. These are my race medals, just for fun. I run very slowly. Oh my god, this was the Chicago Half Marathon. Obnoxiously large. That medal was bigger than the actual Chicago Marathon medal, which is insane. Also, never doing that again, but it was cool to say that I did it. Ooh, I have like an actual physical zoom here. That's kind of cool. I can play around with it. This is my little stuffy from USNA that I bought when I was there. So this is getting pretty old now, but I love him. So cute. This is a random piece of art I bought at like an art show, I think on a Tinder date when I lived in Chicago a long time ago. But you know, I keep it around, reminds me of Chicago. And this is a lantern and a candle from our wedding reception. So yeah, just a lot of little cute stuff up here. This actually is something I bought for my husband back when we were dating, but I just have more room on my shelf. So now it just lives on my shelf. And that actually has our dating anniversary, not our wedding anniversary. And these little shell necklaces were actually from our honeymoon in Fiji, which probably maybe wasn't supposed to bring those back into the country because they're shells, but that's my bad if so. All right, enough of that. Let's get to the books. So first we have all of my writing books. So some of these are just like blank notebooks, and then some of them are like books about writing and craft and stuff. I really enjoy these, and I have been some of these are pretty old. I started getting these when I was in high school, some of them. This is a writing notebook where I've been planning out a series I'm working on, and then a huge stack of critiques from that workshop I went to that I have not quite gotten around to addressing yet for some of my stories. I actually haven't read Bird by Bird yet. I really want to. It's on my list. I'll get there eventually. All right, and down here I have what I would basically call my narrative nonfiction shelf, kind of, and my like non-science nonfiction stuff. This is the Blue Jackets manual. Oh, that's just my mouse. This is my Blue Jackets manual. I got this when I was at the academy. I mostly just keep it for nostalgia, obviously. It has my alpha code in there. You can see I wrote this very hastily. 090342. I had that on everything when I was there. That 09 means I graduated in 2009. And then because my name starts with a B, my last name, my number is like pretty early on. That's why it's just 342. This book, Does Santa Exist?, I think was a gift from my dad. This Empires of the Sea was really interesting. I think I picked it up just randomly at a bookstore, and then I ended up really liking it, and it gave me a lot of inspiration for writing fiction, actually, which is something I really enjoy in nonfiction, so I decided to keep it, because I don't keep a lot of my books. This is The Geek Feminist Revolution by Cameron Hurley. It's like a series of essays. I'm actually not sure why I kept this. I only read it once and it wasn't like my favorite thing. This book, oh my gosh, this is like from when I was a kid. I don't know how it ended up with me. It's obviously so old and like messed up, but I love it. I love mythology, and this was like probably one of my very first introductions to it. So now it's on my shelf. I actually have not read this book, which is kind of bad because it was written by my dad. Sorry, Dad. But I'm not really the target audience because this is basically about politics and Christianity. And I am not a conservative and I'm not a Christian. But I'm very proud of my dad for writing this. He wrote this when he was on sabbatical because he is a philosophy professor, or at least he was. He just very recently retired. But I'm very proud of him for writing this book. Sorry that I never read it. If you're interested, you should check it out. If this is your jam, not my jam. This Rocketman one was really cool. So this is the story of Apollo 8. And I actually got this because I went to an event at MSI in Chicago, I think. And like the astronauts were there and there was like a panel and everything. And this is actually signed by the author because I got it at that event. So that was kind of cool. That was a really fun event. And look, I even got this cool Saturn V bookmark. I forgot that was in there. This is actually a really good book, and I learned a lot of stuff that I didn't know about that mission. So yeah, definitely recommend it. And I know that this is still kind of spacey, so even though it's in my non-science section, but that's just because it's still more like narrative nonfiction. It's not really like about the science necessarily. It's more like a history book. All right, and then we have Secret Stairs. So we bought this when we moved to LA. This is like a guide to some public staircases in Los Angeles, and it's kind of like little urban hikes that you can do. And so my husband and I have done only a couple of them, maybe 3 or 4, but we're having fun and going to keep doing those. So it's a biography of Teddy Roosevelt that was, I think, really popular a while ago. I think I tried to sell it and no one bought it, and so I was just like, I guess it's mine now. I don't know if I'm going to keep it forever, but it's there. This was another book that I think was a gift from my dad. There are 2 errors in the title of this book. Like I said, philosophy. So I'm also very interested in philosophy and puzzles, and my dad knows it. And then The Watch Officer's Guide. This is another one I got when I was at the academy. Another one I have absolutely no reason to keep except for nostalgia. This one doesn't have my alpha code in it, so just my name. But I like it. And these books are alphabetical by title. So that's why we started with Blue Jackets and ended with Watch Officers. Oh, and this one here on the end is facing that way just to act as a bookend. But it's called What is a Googly? The Mysteries of Cricket Explained. And believe me, there are a lot of mysteries of cricket. So my parents bought this for me when I started dating my husband because he is Australian and he likes cricket. And I was like, I don't know anything about cricket. I read the book. It was very helpful. I forgot most of it. But I have actually been to a cricket game now. And so I kind of understand cricket a little bit. Oh, this is so random. So this is one of those little, like, I don't know, ichthyosis fish or something, whatever, the Darwin ones. So back in the day, I used to have an atheist bumper sticker on my old car, and someone in the parking lot at my apartment left me this with a little note saying they liked my bumper sticker. I've never met them. I don't know who they were, but thought it was really cute and nice, so I keep it. Just a little bit of community. All right, so we got our writing, we got our narrative nonfiction. Over here, we have textbooks, and up there we have astronomy. So down here is the, like, kind of non-astronomy textbooks. This one is, get out of the way. This one is Hands-on Machine Learning with Scikit-Learn and TensorFlow. This is actually my husband's book. So he also has a PhD in astronomy and was involved in astronomy when we met, but he is now a data scientist and he really likes this kind of stuff. And I was starting to do this in my old job. And so he lent me the book and then I changed jobs and I don't know if I'm going to need it, but Mathematical Methods for Physics and Engineering. This behemoth of absolute unit of a book was a textbook I used in undergrad. And it actually is very useful. It's obviously more like a reference book. You're not just like going to work your way through this thing. It's enormous, but I think it's very helpful. And so I like keeping it around. And I don't really look at it all that often, but I like knowing that it's there. All right, next we have non-classical physics. So this is basically kind of 20th century physics. So yeah, so this is going to be kind of modern physics, quote unquote, relativity, quantum mechanics, nuclear physics, statistical mechanics. I do not like statistical mechanics. Boo. Nuclear physics I like though. Yeah, I was, obviously in the nuke community. So that's a plus for me. I think I did use this book a little bit to study when I went back to grad school, but I don't really use it anymore. I don't know really why I kept it, but I did. This book, Conquering the Physics GRE, was an absolute lifeline for me. So when I decided to go get my PhD, it had been about 8 years since I graduated undergrad. So I did not remember like anything about physics and I was not at all prepared to take the physics GRE. And this book was very helpful. I went from, not being able to pass physics GRE to getting not a great score, but, a good enough score, obviously, since I did end up going to grad school. And so I'm mostly just keeping this out of, sentimentality, since obviously I'm not going to take the physics GRE again. I think it's an old edition too. I think there's a newer one, but I do recommend it. And then these last 2 on the end here are a set, and these are Tipler and Mosca, and these are just kind of general, like, physics, everything, kind of brief introduction. I also used these to study a lot when I was prepping to go back to grad school. So, like, I kind of worked my way through this. Oh, there's my alpha code again. I kind of worked my way through this to like reteach myself the concepts. And then I used the Conquering the Physics GRE book to actually help me with like the mechanics of the tests and the questions and stuff. And so, yeah, I definitely recommend this textbook. I think if you are interested in kind of getting a grounding in different topics in physics, I think it's a very approachable textbook. At least I found it to be so. Volume 1 has like mechanics and stuff, which is my favorite. Physical mechanics 1 was like my favorite class ever that I took. And this one is more, E&M, light modern physics, although modern physics, I use that other textbook for those actual classes. And I'm not as much of an E&M fan. But it exists. It's a thing. I actually do not have here. So I don't have all of my textbooks here. I did get rid of some of them. So these are just ones that I kept for whatever reason. And one of the ones that I did not keep was actually our Physical Mechanics 2 textbook, which I don't remember what it was called. It was like this red book that had like a tractor on the front or something. And that class was like maybe one of the hardest classes I took throughout undergrad. And I love Physical Mechanics 1 so much, so it felt like a betrayal because it was so hard. I was like, what the hell is this? We went from like nice Newtonian equations of motions to like Lagrangians and Hamiltonians. And that's kind of ironic because I ended up being a dynamicist in my PhD. And so I did a lot of work in that kind of field. And, you know, to be honest, do I still have an intuitive understanding of a Hamiltonian? No, but I can work with them now. So I guess that's what matters. Also, I did still get an A in that class, you know, just saying. And these books over here are fiction. That's just my TBR pile. I brought back a shit ton of books from that workshop. And now, finally, at last, we get to the space and astronomy books. So this one is called The Planets, and it's about the planets of the solar system. And I really enjoyed this book. I actually could maybe put it in the more narrative section because it's not really like a very technical book. But I think this book is one of the reasons that I wanted to study exoplanets. And I mean, it is about the planets of the solar system, but I mean, if you like the planets of the solar system and you like space and astronomy, you probably also like exoplanets. I haven't read it in a long time, though. And there is a textbook up here. So this one is an introduction to modern astrophysics. And we called this Bob. Big Orange Book, also called Carol Nosley, because those were the authors. And this is a great book. I used this book not only to study when I went back to grad school, but I used it as a reference while I was in grad school. And I use it still sometimes when I'm like making videos and there's a topic I want to brush up on. I mean, obviously, like I use the internet a lot, like most people, but it is nice to have an actual physical textbook that I can refer back to. Yeah, and I think I love Bob. I love Bob. A little bit of light reading, right? No. I mean, I don't know if this is like the most up to date because like obviously if I graduated in 2009, yeah, okay, so this was published in 2007. So it might not be like 100% up to date, but I think it is a very good reference. And I don't know if there's a newer version. That's a good question. I do remember that I was reading this the other day, a couple months ago, and it was talking about an exoplanet mission that, you know, got canceled and never happened. And I was like, oh, this is definitely a little out of date, but I still love it. And this book is on celestial mechanics. And this is so funny. I bought this book randomly at like a used bookstore because I saw it and I thought it was cool. And this was before I had even thought about going back to grad school. So this was after I'd graduated college. And I just had this for fun. And I was just reading this and I had it like on my nightstand and I didn't finish it, but I was like working through some of the problems. And what's so funny is that when I went to grad school, I was like, I knew I wanted to study exoplanets, but I didn't know what aspect I wanted to study. And I ended up working on a orbital dynamics project and I really liked it. So I ended up doing that. And then it's like, obviously, you literally had a celestial mechanics textbook on your nightstand. Like, duh, Nora, you were never, like, that was always a thing. Anyway. Here's another book that I have that I'm actually not sure I should have. So sorry about that, Dan. But this was a book that was the kind of textbook that my advisor was using in a class that I was TAing for. It's by Anna Frebel. I've actually met her. She was at MIT when I went to the open house there, but she was really nice. And this is like not totally a textbook. It's a little bit more on the like casual is the wrong word, but you know, it's not like a very super dry technical textbook. It's kind of in between, I would say. And I thought it was actually a really interesting choice and a good choice for the class that was on stars. So obviously this book's about stars. But yeah, so Dan gave me a copy of it when I was TAing and I was probably supposed to give it back. And then I found it when I was moving and I was like, oops. And then, all right, we already talked about Bob. Now we have another orange book. Orange is my favorite color, coincidentally. Solar System Dynamics, aka Murray and Dermott. Oh my God, I love Murray and Dermott. This book I got this during my PhD and it was like my Bible during my PhD. This is so good if you're interested in dynamics. And I like literally wrote a whole paper that was just an offshoot of the appendix of this book. And you can actually see where it's like this spine is like cracked a little bit and it falls open to this page. I spent so much time reading this. I was like, I referenced this entire section, but that page in particular, just a ton. That's about the effects of Jupiter and Saturn on a dust particle. So anyway, if you've read in my papers, you would know why I reference that so much, but I do not expect that any of you have. And this is, even though it is, you know, solar system dynamics is still very helpful and useful in general orbital dynamics and exoplanets. And then lastly, we have this beautiful, beautiful exoplanets book that was edited by Sarah Seeger. I also met her at MIT. And so this is kind of a textbook. There's like a whole series of books like this, and they're basically like books that are edited by, you know, someone in the field. And then each chapter is kind of a paper written by different people on different topics. And there's lots of different subject matters of all these different books. This one obviously is on exoplanets. And I actually got this book after I had kind of left the science field in general. And this was when I was working at JPL and it was in a pile of things that was going to get thrown away. And I was like, absolutely not. This like beautiful, like pristine condition book on exoplanets. I am taking this home. I'm not letting this get thrown away. So I actually haven't really used it at all, but I I'm glad it's there, and it actually probably should be using it more as reference for some of the videos that I've been doing. But yeah, I'm very excited that I was able to get that. So that is the end of my little nonfiction collection. I am not the biggest nonfiction reader in general. And I think in this day and age, especially, you know, I do use the internet for a lot of my referencing and materials, but I do like having the physical books there. And now you know what's behind me, or you have an idea of what's behind me in all those little videos. And like I said, these are just TBR books that are there because I didn't have anywhere else to put them. I'm kind of aggressive about trying not to keep too many books because since I love to read, it would get overwhelming. So nonfiction, I don't have that many, but I do have a lot of fiction, and I try very, very hard to keep it all restricted to that one shelf. So yeah, I don't know, that'd be a longer video, but if you want me to go over my fiction bookshelf, you know, I'm happy to do that too. And we're not going to bother with this clip because if I use the actual audio from it sounds like I was shouting at you from underwater. And thanks so much for helping me test out my new camera. I hope it works. All right, we'll be back with a longer science video again soon. Thanks so much for watching. Have a good one. Bye.